CCO Live, and we're going to have fun tonight. It is number 34. Remember, these are our casual nights when we have the CCO Live. So we were just talking about coffee. If you like to drink coffee this late at night, or a nice cup of tea, or your bottle of water, whatever you want, nice glass of wine, sit down with us, and we're going to talk to Marie Popkin, and she has several credentials, but we're just going to skim over this first slide because we're going to get into some fun questions. If you didn't know that I don't want to give away too much information, but we've done some other interviews, and I really have had a lot of fun doing those because I learned something, and we've been chatting, and Boyd's been here, and we've been just talking about all kinds of things, learning a little bit about each other. Marie, tell them how we met.
Well, Alicia and I are both members of Jobs for American Medical Coders, and they partnered with Don Self and Associates and started bringing CEUs to AAPC groups around the country virtually. So Alicia and I have both spoke and given CEU presentations to different AAPC chapters, and we loved listening to each other's teachings.
Mm-hmm. And what's really fun is that we've got our own little messenger board, and and so sometimes somebody will say, "Hey, I ran into this scenario. Anybody got any?" And how many is there on that little group? Is there 5 of us, 6? Maybe there's more than I think. But I think there's only 5 or 6 of us that do these presentations, and
pretty regularly, yeah.
Yeah, and so we just chat in there, and I've learned quite a bit from them because everybody kind of has a different niche,
And my daughter even connected with your niece because of our presentation, so that was pretty cool.
We'll tell you in a little bit what they have in common.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's get started. Promise we're only going to talk for an hour, and Boyd is in the background to make sure that we don't talk too long, because both of us love what we do, and we both like to talk, I think.
Pretty much. The best part of the job is being able to talk to wonderful people like you, Alicia.
Well, thank you. That makes me feel wonderful just for saying that. We do have fun. So now that I've moved the slide, give us some insight as to what is actually your current job. And I found out, just heads up before you talk, she's been doing some stuff for some Texans, and she's not in Texas and I'm in Texas. So see what you learn when you get to chat.
Yeah, I love it because my current role takes me all over the country. And I'm an auditor for a company that's based in Florida called Healthcare Coding and Consulting Services, HCCS. And so I've been doing primarily lately external audits for physicians around for the clients that they have me doing them for. And so I've gotten a very diverse group of doctors and PAs and providers in general to be able to audit and give them feedback. So it's a fun job. As far as how long I've been in the industry, you're making me age myself here, but I will say that I gave birth to my firstborn 37 years ago and decided that I wanted to make him proud and I wanted to do something wonderful with my life. And at the time, I had a cleaning business. So I was scrubbing toilets and scrubbing floors. And so I decided to go to medical assisting school. And I learned after I graduated that I could now make half of what I made scrubbing toilets and scrubbing floors.
Well, when you get good clients, don't you?
But all was not lost. I got a job at a physician's office, and I started there as a medical assistant, and I ended up loving the front office work and getting into all of the revenue cycle and working my way up through the ranks to practice administrator. And I worked in the field until just 2014, when since 2014 I've been working remotely.
Do you like one more than the other? Remote versus, do
Um,
you miss people, in other words?
I do miss people, but see, that's the wonderful part about as long as I have people like you and other
Yeah.
colleagues that I can talk to like this, then it makes it okay. But otherwise, I met my husband actually at the doctor's office that I worked at because I was a
Wow.
single mom. So, and that
Oh, wait,
was
was he an employee or a
he was a
patient?
patient. He was a patient.
Did he get sick a
Very
lot and
funny
keep coming
story.
in to see you?
No, he worked for his parents' company, and they sent all their employees in for their work physicals and all.
Oh,
So he would even transport people over for appointments that he needed to
oh,
have get pre-employment physicals and everything.
yeah.
And my office manager at the time knew that I needed help because I was a single mom and I needed a man with a truck. So that's really all I was looking for. I was not looking for a husband, but I was just looking for
That's
a man with a
awesome.
truck.
That is so cool.
But
That's fun.
everybody in his family is in healthcare. So as far as how my personal life impacts my career in every day in every way, because when I married this gentleman, he became a firefighter paramedic. His brother is a physician. His father is a pharmacist. His mother is a director of nursing. So we
Wow.
are just a healthcare family.
Yeah. That is a lot. So what's nice about that is with your role, you don't have people in the family coming to you to say, "Hey, I have this wrong with me. You know, what should I do?" Because you got plenty of other people in the
No, we
medical
go to
field.
Matthew for that. He's the doctor in the
Yeah,
family. Yeah.
I have.
And then
I
he
have.
just asks me coding advice.
Yes, yes. I'll look at your ear if you. Oh, that's fun. So the what do you think then is the best thing about your career? If you look back retrospectively, you kind of already highlighted it, but
Mhm.
what would you say if you could sum that up that is the best thing you think about your career?
I, hmm. Well, I guess my thoughts were, and I until this very year, it's been like that. I thought it was a very stable career, and that it
Mm,
might not be something where I would, be uh, make $1 million and be Bill Gates or anything, but it would be
right.
stable and consistent, and I
Because
would
people
be
always get
helping
sick.
people, and I want to
Yeah.
help people, and that's my nature to help other people. So any service industry like that where I can help other people, and that's what attracted me to healthcare.
Yep. And another thing about this avenue uh, is you don't have to necessarily smell the smells and stuff like that, but you still get that
Yes.
that constant bit of knowledge coming in. We're always learning something new. Tell them what you said before we started about the pulmonary issues with children that you didn't know that they use this treatment because I
Yeah,
didn't know this either.
they use caffeine on babies to treat babies for. I'll have to research more about it, but I never knew that until today. So every single day, I usually learn something.
Right.
So that was my education for today. So I don't
Yeah.
know what they use caffeine therapy for, but they use it. The
With
pulmonary
pulmonary breathing issues.
pediatricians use it
That
for infants.
and it is true. If you are a person that is constantly striving to learn, if you get bored easy or uh, this is a career where it's never dull. And I don't think it is ever dull. We do have people in the chat. Whitney says, "Wow, such an interesting background." I agree. I like hearing how people came around to what they're doing now, and it's there's diversity. uh, I've had students that were truck drivers. It's like, well, how did you get into this arena, or what made you think to start this as a career? And maybe they knew somebody, or life changes where they couldn't be on the road anymore, and they knew somebody that said, hey, this is a, like you mentioned, it's pretty reliable work once you get in the field, and pays pretty good. So it's fun to hear the backgrounds. Well, this is a picture that you actually sent today to me, and I thought it was pretty awesome. I asked her if we could share it, and it really leads into how does your personal life impact your career. So why don't you give us a little bit of background about why this is a pertinent photograph to your
Yes.
family?
Well, I've told you all about my healthcare career, and at a certain point in it, my husband decided he wanted to go on a mission trip, and I wanted to do healthcare in a third world country because I'm in healthcare. I figured, what could I do? I can go over there and help with some healthcare. So I went on a mission trip, my first mission trip to Haiti in 2004. And as you all know, there was an earthquake in Haiti. And at that time, when I first got there, I met a little girl that was blind and deaf. And I wanted to help her because that's just how I am. It's like she was my patient. I wanted to help her. And I knew I had connections in the United States. So I went back and I started talking to physicians, and I got commitments of people that would be able to do surgery on her. Long story short, in 2009, she got to leave Haiti and come to the United States. And in January 2010, the earthquake hit, and she was not able to go back to Haiti, which was a blessing for me because she then became my daughter. So I have a blind, deaf, adopted Haitian daughter. And that's how Alicia and I became friends while we were talking and giving our CEUs. She reached out to me and said, I have a niece who's deaf. So my daughter and her niece connected on Facebook. And so anyway, that's what makes the world go round. People are wonderful. And it's just been a blessing to be able to help people, to be able to help some people in Haiti, to be able to meet other deaf people that need help. And my presentation that I generally do when I'm doing these AAPC talks is about the rights and responsibilities of healthcare workers for the deaf and hard of hearing population, because there are laws that will advise healthcare facilities and clinics on how to effectively communicate with deaf people. And that's important to me because I have a deaf daughter, and this sign is very important to me. And I'm very grateful to the town of Moulton Borough, where I am currently, for putting this up so people would not barrel down the road when she's trying to walk home.
That is pretty cool. And yeah, she's right. We'd been doing the talks, and sometimes because it's a virtual and we have like 5 people that are talking in one day, you might come in and go out in the background, virtually. And then I finally got to sit down and listen to her presentation, and it was like, wow, we really have a lot in common. So that was fun. Well, the next thing I thought that would be really helpful for people to hear about is, what do you think are some of the trends that are going to affect us in this career path in the future? So for both medical coding, billing, and not auditing, but the whole scope of the medical field, what do you think is going to impact our futures?
Well, I've been talking a lot about telehealth, and I really think that there has been so many changes. I don't think they're all going to go away. I've been on pretty much every Medicare call, office hours call at 5:00 on Tuesday evenings to get the latest updates. It's not easy to keep up with all the payers on all of their different rules and regulations regarding telehealth, but I do think now that the PHE has been extended for another 90 days, that we are going to see some of these things remain. And I think it's a good thing. But I also think it's going to be a big opportunity for audits because, we got hit with this so hard and so fast that nobody really knew what they were doing. And a lot of facilities and practices are holding claims to make sure they're coded and audited before they even go out the door, just because they want to make sure they don't get scrutinized on the back end. So this is something I think that we're going to keep seeing. So if you haven't if you've been coding, I'm sure that you're seeing telehealth visits in whatever specialty you're in at this point.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm seeing that, and also even I've already had I had 3 telehealth visits personally, and then my son, just this last Friday, his neurologist in Austin, they said, "Hey, it's time, and we're only doing telehealth." And it's like, okay. And so we sat here. I plopped my son next to me, and he kept putting, we were able to widen the camera, and he wasn't completely bored, but he was it went really well, and it was so easy, and it wasn't anything. We covered everything that we needed to, because it was I wouldn't say it was follow-up, but it was just continuing of care to make sure that the meds that he's on
Right.
were still
It's
working. And if we need
definitely,
to make
it's not going to be the greatest for every situation, but it's
right,
certainly going to be convenient for like people with chronic medication that just
yeah,
need to be checked on and
yeah.
things like that. I don't think those things will necessarily go away. We'll have to keep an eye on the payers and see what they say, because they can change like the winds. But
Yeah,
at
I
this
know.
point,
With risk adjustment, see, I was
yes.
that's the other thing that I work pretty heavily in,
Mhm.
and I was telling them they're not going to pay for risk adjustment is not going to pay for these. You've got to be face to face, but they did change that, and
Yes,
so
I saw that.
but we were waiting, and we were all kind of holding our breath for a week, like, what do we do? Do we need to be auditing? Do we need to tell them that this is on there? But actually, we just keep doing what we do,
Right.
and that as things change, it doesn't change patient care any. I mean, as far as what we do, doesn't the patient care doesn't change. Yes, it may be administered different, but as far as the documentation and everything, it stays the same for us, whether it's a face-to-face visit, because if it's not documented, I mean, it's not like they can, auscultate the lungs or something. So that's just not counted. What about the 2021 changes for E&M? Any the thoughts about that coming around the corner? I know I'm just
Uh,
throwing that at you, but we've been already lecturing it about that. But since you're doing the auditing, it got any thoughts about that?
um, I, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be as easy as people think it's going to be. I'm a little
Yeah,
concerned. So
yeah,
I mean, I guess maybe just new things. I don't want to be too optimistic. It's something new. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, especially as an auditor, to make sure that everybody is doing
right.
things correctly.
So you actually have to be the expert, and when stuff is changing like that as an auditor, that puts a little more pressure on you, I think,
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
and for me, who's never been a big fan of E&M, I mean, yes, I can do it and everything, but I'm all that ICD. uh, to me, it's like, oh yeah, this is so much easier. It's not like we're throwing bullet points out, but you know but yeah, I think there's going to be a learning curve that first year. It's going to be fun. Um,
Yeah.
any other trends about that you can think of that maybe we need to be aware of? Mm, uh, the
I I can't think of anything. I do hope elective surgeries will pick up again. I don't know what's going on with our. I,
yeah,
I'm I'm hearing things and reading things in documentation where you know things are being delayed, surgeries are being delayed. I feel bad for
that
the patients
it,
because
yeah,
people are
the
scared.
and the hospitals are losing revenue.
Sure.
They're,
Yeah.
talk about the patients bleeding, the hospitals, and it's hard to recover from that. We forget that not only are they healing the patient, but they got to pay to keep the lights on, right?
Right.
And to be able to do that, pay the water bill. They have a water bill too, an electric bill.
So I
That's
just want people to feel safe again. So I hope that happens soon. And then I think
yeah,
that as far as the trends I think that our industry will not only recover, but I think it is going to grow as far as coding and auditing and everything to do with the revenue cycle. I think we're going to be expanding
yeah.
because We
'Cause how
have
are they going to recoup
new
money?
things happening on the horizon. Everybody's, coming up with immunizations, and
Right.
all kinds of things are happening in healthcare because progress is going on. Even though, a lot of us are at home, there's a lot of progress being made in healthcare. So I think that's going to
Yeah.
be good for our industry.
As far as like the genetics too, right? And talking the vaccinations,
Mhm.
some of the stuff that is being pushed much faster than normally went through the system. They're trying to push for the COVID vaccine, and normally something like that takes what, like 8-10 years, I think, and they're
Yeah.
pumping it through in months. So yeah, I see maybe policies changing about allowing procedures and things that were in the testing stage, pumping it through a little faster.
And I heard today that we're going to be having in-home COVID tests. So like you have home pregnancy tests. So that's a good thing because we'll know faster, and we'll get results, and we'll be able to protect ourselves and protect others.
That's a good point. Had not heard that, but that makes me think too that if they can do, okay, they can do pregnancy like you mentioned, but what else can you test? There's a few other things that you can test for home, but we forget, I think often when we're all talking about COVID, but COVID is the flu. So
Mhm.
if they can test at home for the flu,
Sure.
then your treatment would change a little bit, whether you have a cold or the flu. And then they can onboard medication quicker if it takes you, 24 hours to get
You
in
can
to see the
telehealth
doctor.
your doctor. You can say, I'm positive
I
for
tested
flu
positive.
A, and they can have your Tamiflu delivered to your door, and you can go to bed.
They can have
So
Amazon drop it off. Bing!
there's progress being made, and everything's always changing. That's what I love about healthcare because don't learn anything too much. People say, do I have to memorize all these codes? Oh, please don't, because they're going to change.
I do. I say that same thing to students. I say, they don't expect you to memorize this. You will. I mean, there will be stuff that you memorize, but it's nothing like going from 9 to 10 to ICD. When we were in ICD 9 and then moved to 10, that was major change. And I kept thinking, I have all these codes memorized, and now you're taking them away. But it doesn't take long when you're especially working in a specialty for you to pick those up pretty quickly. Well, let me
That's true.
just see here. I don't want to. Oh, this is another area that I think is really important, and we tweaked this question a little bit because I was saying that we get this question all the time. Not this particular one, but like this. What do I do to get into the industry? Da, 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 da. And we've done webinars on that and gotten advice. However, never are we really focusing on, what is maybe the best credential for me. And
Mhm.
I thought you had some good insight on that.
Well, I had said I didn't pick my credential picked me. And the reason I said that is because as I had started off saying, I began as a medical assistant and worked my way into the front office and got familiar with the entire revenue cycle,
Mhm.
and then became, in the days of capitation, if y'all remember that, I was made office manager because I was the only one that knew how to work capitation.
Yeah.
And so I became office manager, oh gosh. And then I was hired to manage an orthopedic practice. I did that for 14 years. That was my favorite job I've ever had. It was wonderful. I love orthopedics. But I was coding for
Yeah.
14 years under their supervision, never was certified.
Hmm.
So it was just, I worked hand in hand with the doctors. They would let me go to surgery. It was a lot of fun. I even processed x-rays, in the tanks and all with that in the days
Wow.
before PAC systems and stuff. So,
When we called them
uh,
films, right?
yeah,
You
I had to
still
hang
say
the
that.
films, and
You're saying,
yeah, I
I'll
had to
call
bring
you
the
for films. And it's like, no, it's just
and I
put it
had
on
to
the
run
computer.
films over to the hospital to the OR because he forgot to take them with him, and he needs to look at the hip that he's putting in and stuff like that. So it was lots and lots of fun. And the reason that I started remote was because of my daughter. Once I had this little blind deaf girl, it was she started school, so that was fine. But then after school, my husband was a firefighter paramedic, so he was on duty 24 hours. So when she got off the bus, somebody had to be there for her, and I was working, so I had to pay somebody to be at the house a few days a week, and it was just better that she had mom at home, and I was wanting to be her mom at that point. So I decided to, I applied for to a coding company, and they hired me uncertified. But now you have to realize this was 2014. But I knew in my head, I said, I don't know if they're going to keep me uncertified. So one of these days they're going to say, get certified or get out. So I did decide to, take the test, but I just took the test and I had letters from the doctors saying that I had been coding. So I didn't have to really go through any course or anything like that, which I was very fortunate in that way. But that's, I guess my advice to somebody picking a credential is to try to get a little experience if you could in whatever it is you want to do, because I was telling you earlier, if you want to be a facility coder, so many people say they want to be a facility coder. They tend to be higher on the pay scale. So that's why people are attracted to it. So I can understand that. Personally, I'm not a fan of hospitals. So if I would suggest you go be a candy striper, work in the cafeteria, volunteer in some way, get familiar with the setting and see if that's a place you want to be. If you want to work at a doctor's office, see if you could help out. Say, do you need somebody to answer the phone one day a week or something? Give somebody some time off, or if somebody's on vacation, I'd be happy to help you. Whatever setting you want to work in, whatever specialty you might be attracted to, see if you can get a little bit of experience, because I see people spend a lot of money on credentials and even college degrees and never use them. So I kind of try to be very smart about where I spend my money. So I want to get familiar with the environment first, and then if I like it, then I'll invest in it.
I think Jacqueline, he said, I was a maid too before entering the medical field. Whitney says, do you have any suggestions for someone wanting to get into auditing? And I know that Whitney has been a coder for a long time, because that's kind of a given. I know that, again, pay scale, you go in and you look at the salaries and they say, well, the auditors make more money. I just want to sit for that credential. Well, that's not how it works. But Whitney is actually a very experienced coder. So would you have some suggestions for if she's
Does Whitney have her auditing certification, her CPMA?
No, she doesn't. Should she start with that? Or
well, I would necessarily start with that. I would just make it well known that that's where she wants to be. So I have had to actually move companies because I've made it well known that I want to advance and I want to grow. And I've made it well known for years, and it's not happened. And, I've been ignored. So, that can be a hard situation to be in. So that's when you may want to start talking to other companies and telling them where you want to be, because
recruiters too.
Recruiters and just there's a lot of it. We were talking about Jobs for American Medical Coders. They have on their files section a list of all of the coding companies pretty much in the country. And you could just start targeting your dream job and just believe in yourself and say, this is what I want to do. I think I can do it.
That's good advice.
If you could get any experience, sometimes they have positions like interim positions. It's not really an auditor, but it's called a quality assurance person or a lead coder. They call it something like that. It's at least a step up. So you just want to keep moving in the right direction.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like what you said about, what you think your dream job is, and then just keep moving towards that as you go. another thing is sometimes your career path morphs. What you think you wanted to do isn't
Yes.
necessarily, when you get in there. Because I've done some contracts for ProFee, and hey, I can teach it. I can tell you how to do it. I'm, good in that avenue. But when you sit down and you've got those in front of you, I realize I'm slow. And I thought, okay, well, it's the learn, I just got to get back in it. But it's something, and it's humbling to say that's not my gift.
Oh,
And,
yes. I
I
I
can
can
do
tell
it.
you there's a lot of things that are not my fit. Like, for example, after I left the orthopedic practice closed, actually, I was heartbroken. What am I going to do with my life? I went to an oncology practice and I became their,
Mm,
I oversaw their revenue cycle, the billing.
big difference.
Um, and yes, so I was, what was my title exactly? Uh, Revenue cycle supervisor or something like that. Anyway, I realized that the patients were, in orthopedics, all of my patients got better. We made them all better. It was wonderful. In oncology,
Oh,
they didn't. It
yeah.
was depressing for me. I'm thinking I really don't want to be working in
Yeah.
oncology all day, every day. I don't mind doing it occasionally when I'm auditing, but
Right.
it's just, you have to. And then I have a girlfriend who's a hospice nurse, and all
Hmm.
she does is pediatric cancer patients.
Oh, my word.
And she loves it. She's like
Yeah.
an angel to these families. And I'm thinking,
Hmm.
I could never do this. So you
Right.
just have to know yourself, know your heart, know what you love to do. Because
Hmm.
I know I love to serve, but you have to be in the place of service where you can make the
A
most
good fit.
impact and where you find fulfillment. You don't want to be depressed all day. So, be smart, target your dream job.
My roommate in college, and we kind of grew up together. Uh, she she got her degree as a social worker, and she went almost right into hospice, and she's still doing it. And burnout for hospice is really a short window, and she's
Mhm.
still doing it. And so, because, like you said, it she has that heart for that. And everybody knows, because I say it all the time, and I know they get tired of hearing it, but I love the disease process. I love ICD 10. I love both PCS and CM, and risk adjustment, of course, falls into that. Inpatient, it's very heavy with diagnosis codes. And
Mhm.
so uh, I was shocked that that last little stint I did in ProFee, and the person that was my supervisor, they were all excited to get me, and it was a little
Sure.
humbling because after, a short time, we both looked at each other kind of and said, this isn't working for you, is it? But it wasn't working for her and it wasn't working for me. And that's okay. you
Yes, it
know
is.
and I did get a refresher in some stuff that is like, oh, that it increased my knowledge base, it made me better. It's just it's not good long term for me. And just like oncology for you, I had a couple students that when they came in, and I like to tell this story because they were friends, and so they wanted to take the course together, and so they started the PBC course, through CCO. And one said, I have always wanted to do cardiology. It fascinates me. And her friend said, and I want to do orthopedics. I just think that's, really crazy awesome. And they got into the course, and it was just so funny because by the time they got done with the course, they had flipped. And she goes, cardiology is awful and it's so intense. It doesn't make sense to me. And the other one was like, orthopedics, oh my gosh, the codes, and then they had both said, but and it resonated with them. And I think they went on to specialize in those credentials, and there are specialty credentials that you can get. So
Yes.
yeah, and regarding auditing, for somebody that doesn't have the background that Whitney does, you know,
Mhm.
uh, how we kind of alluded before that you kind of have to put your time in to be an auditor. But for the most part, that's kind of what coders are doing right now, because providers code now. They have the EMRs, electronic medical records. they're forced to kind of pick codes, and then you as the coder are going back. Are you finding that with your auditing that you're doing now, that that they're picking them and you're up there just kind of saying, oh no, they're off the ball because they don't understand
Quite
the
frankly,
codes.
I had seen a little cartoon a while ago about a doctor going to their CEO and saying, I really need a coder because I don't want to be looking up these codes all day. And I really, really need a coder. And the CEO is saying, well, I'm sorry, it's not in the budget. That's your job to do it. And he's like, well, it's my job to pay taxes too, but I hire an accountant to do it for me. So in my estimation, doctors need coders. They don't need to be doing that. They don't need to be looking up codes, and they don't need to be leveling E&M services. I think that's kind of ridiculous. And to be honest with you, I told you my brother-in-law is a doctor, and he tells me he codes his own, and it's like I don't even want to look at his records. But I just think that we have to respect what they do. I have great respect for doctors, great respect, but I also think that they need coders, and I don't think they need that pressure on them. So I feel that we need to be partners with them and help them.
It was about, what was the year that everything was required to switch over electronic? Was that 2016 or was it 17 or 14? I can't remember now. But that was the big shift, right? When everything was required to go electronic, and then it's like, well, it's all right there. It's just a drop down. Let the provider pick it. It's
right. Like, or let the EHR pick it or whatever. But
it's so smart. It'll pick the right code. And we'll just go back and double check it. I agree with you on that it almost is faster and easier to let the provider focus on treating the patient and the documentation, because we were always harping about documentation anyway, and now they have to pick the codes. Let us go back to
see, I mean, I know they usually have to, most EHRs work that they have to put something in there, or they can't sign the note and close the note, which that's fine, but it needs to be checked by a coder. And then I think the coder should be doing all the coding for all the doctors in the entire country. That's just me. And I think the auditor should be making sure the coders are at the level that they should be. And then all of your claims will be going in clean. That would be a perfect world. But we don't have that right now.
It could be another trend we see in a few years where, if the providers are seeing more patients because they're doing more telehealth, then it's like, oh, workload. How can we get, you don't know. We'll see what happens.
Well, I hope that's true. I think they have enough to do just keeping up on the latest advancements in medical technologies and surgeries and healthcare. And, they have a lot to learn. Their stuff changes just as fast as our stuff changes. And, it's just, you can't expect them to do it all any more than you can expect us to do every kind of coding and be proficient at it all. It's just not possible. So I think the best way to do healthcare is for us to partner together and to for the good of the whole healthcare system, and getting it would cut down on, like when I ran a practice, when I realized the cost of appealing a denial and things on the back end, as opposed to sending things outright the first time, it's so much more cost effective.
I was going to say too that one of the concepts of the coding, our role is really a translator, just like your daughter. If she goes in and she doesn't have you, there's a translator there. And so that's what we're doing. We're taking the provider's documentation and we're translating it into another language so that it can capture statistics and they can get paid.
I have always said that, Alicia. You and I are so much alike in that way. I always tell coders too, because they'll be trying to figure something out. And I'm like, you can't read into it. What does it say?
That's right.
Your job is not to read, to say, what was he trying to say? It's to take whatever's on that page and translate it into code. No more, no less.
And it's just like and I think because we both no sign language. So when you're taught sign language and you're taught the etiquette of a translator, not just sign language, but other translators, if you go in and understand the role of the translator, it's not what you think. They're not interpreting what you say. It's like dictation. You're just the
Yes.
mouthpiece for that person, and things can get kind of wonky.
Yes, I actually had an interpreter that I was paying daily when I go to Haiti because I can't speak the language.
Right.
I don't speak Creole, so I hire an interpreter to take with me when I'm doing. Well, somebody said that he wasn't translating correctly. And that's a big no-no. So then he doesn't get the job the next time. And they want the job because they have families to feed. So it's like they know it's very important to say exactly what I say and not more and not less, just exactly what I say. So that's the same thing in any interpretation.
An example too, which when I was taking my classes, my sign language classes, and my instructor was deaf, but she was relaying a scenario that happened and why it's so important, because some of the people that were taking the courses were going to go on and that was their career path. They were going to become translators. I wasn't. And so she was trying to explain why it's so important. And she said, if you go into the court system and you're a translator, and the example was a woman who had been raped, and the translator was embarrassed to translate exactly what had happened. And so she didn't want to say the words. And so she changed it, so it wasn't as graphic. And that makes a difference because it was a jury. So if you replace words to soften, or but you can't do that. And it's the same thing with procedures. And, if you are not coding to the highest specificity, then and translating that properly, or even as a translator, you have to ask questions if you don't understand properly what's being stated, and it's like, let me clarify, is this what you mean? Do I understand what you're saying correctly before I tell them? Or even if there's a cultural thing saying, well, this word means this here, or an impression, that's the translator's skill set and expertise to be able to do that. We do that for our providers. We let them know, hey, there's a combo code for that. It's a higher specificity, and especially in risk adjustment, this risk adjusts higher. It's not just a cough. It's actually, a specific type of cough, a smoker's cough. That risk adjusts, but just a cough doesn't. And so is it a smoker's cough, or is it, and it's little things like that we're given our expertise and our knowledge to make sure it's translated properly. So yeah, this fun stuff. See how different things in our life experiences make us better at our jobs? So we're kind of rolling into the end here. We got two more things that we were going to ask you. What is your favorite aspect about yourself?
I'm glad you gave me this in advance because I had to think about it a little bit. But I will say, I think it's my ability, it's my determination and my ability to, I guess, persevere through difficult times, knowing that there's a good time on the horizon. I've had both personally and professionally, I've had, had difficult times that I've had to go through, but I tend to always be hopeful about it and know that there's something better ahead. So that's kind of what's driven me both in my career and just in my personal life.
I would think that quality too, not that to lessen what you've had to deal with and go through, but having a positive attitude always makes you more fun to be around. But it almost makes you, I'm trying to think of the best way to say it without, like I said, not giving weight by giving enough weight to what you've gone through. But having hope. The hope that you said is being able to get to the other side. This is temporary, or this is really bad, or I'm really discouraged. I didn't get the job I wanted, or, or I've been working for it. I love this. And now my career, they're closing the office, or, those
Yeah.
type of things, how am I going to raise a child with 2 major disabilities, and those things, when you go with a hopeful, positive attitude, it's not that it's not really difficult, but you get on the other side a little easier, I think, probably.
Yeah, and I think I just like challenges, honestly. And that I mean,
Yeah.
this, it's people say they want to work from home or whatever. It's not selling Avon. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's very challenging. It can be
Yes.
very stressful.
And it can be really hard.
There are deadlines that you have to meet at times. There's pressure on you. If you don't thrive, or if you can't persevere in that kind of environment, it's going to be difficult. But I'm the type of person that it's like, give me a deadline. I'm going to meet it. I just am determined to persevere and to come out on the other side.
That's good. I'm not a morning person, and this other contract that I'm helping with, I have to be at my desk at 7:00 in the morning. And I literally, my husband, not me, my husband has his phone set with 3 alarms to get me up. 3 alarms at different times, because I know the first one wakes me up, I go back to sleep. Then the next one goes off, and that tells me that I have 15 more minutes before I have to get out of bed when the 3rd alarm hits, and he's poking me, or he's already up, and he'll come and say, did you hear the 2nd alarm? So I'm not a morning person. That's funny. All right. This is the last fun question that we're going to wrap up with. And I would really love for you guys that are watching to put in the comments, you answer this question. This is just fun. If you could go any place in the world, all expenses paid, and it wasn't going to be a hardship on you or your family and everything, where would you go? Where would you pick?
Are you asking me now, or are you asking them?
No, they got to put it in. You.
Oh, okay.
You...
All right. Well, I chose Italy. I want to go to Rome. I want to see the Colosseum. I want to drink good wine. I want to have real Italian food. So I think that would be a fun trip. That's definitely on my bucket list.
And the way they talk in Italy of romance language like that,
yes,
it kind of warms the heart, right? It just kind of makes you feel gooey inside. That's a great.
I think that might be an
place.
Anniversary trip. I'm going to have to start prodding my husband.
Good idea. Well, you're a world traveler. You've gone to Haiti. Where else have you gone? Have you gone other places?
If you want to go to the fourth world.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to go to Haiti. Not the places in Haiti I go to. People want to get out, but nobody wants to go. I haven't been many places outside of the country. I've been to Bermuda. I've been to the Bahamas. Places like that. But otherwise, pretty much around the United States as well.
Well, I've got some places, but I'm not going to tell you guys where mine is, because someday that'll give me an exchange place.
I want to know where you want to go. That's not fair, Alicia.
Okay, fine. My one place I always wanted to go see is Scotland.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
you want to see men wearing kilts.
Well, that, and I also want to see the Highland Games.
Oh, yes. I have friends who are Scottish, actually, and
the Highland Games. I see those; they'll pop up, and I'll just be watching. And the boys really love to see it. It's like, no, those strongmans are on. You guys leave mommy alone. Man, did you see what that guy can do? To me, that's just wow. And
that sounds fun.
So I would like to go and see that. Yeah, no other.
I'll go with my husband to Italy. I'll go with you to Scotland.
All right. That would be fun. I do have a passport, so that would be fun. We'll have to plan that. And as we wrap up, guys, hey, you know what? Don't put it off. If you want to do something, if you want to career, if you want to get a new credential, changing careers, if you want to go someplace, start planning it. Get you a picture, put it above, on your refrigerator, on your bathroom mirror, on your desk. If you want another credential, then put it up there to where you see it and just say, no, what do I have to do today to get me one step closer to going to Scotland? Or what do I need to do? And I think that,
you know how
that
when you were a little girl and you used to fall in love with these men on the magazine covers or something, and you would pretend you wanted to marry them, and you would write your name with their last name. So write your name with your credentials.
Good idea.
And you can see how they look.
And I was just telling her about the new pens I bought myself. These are those real fountain pens that you have to like put the ink in with the nub, and so far I've managed to get more ink on me than on the letters I've been writing and stuff. But there's just I just put ink all over myself again. All I did was open it. Write it out. That sometimes seeing it on paper makes it more real in your brain. So I like that advice. Whitney says she wants to go to Spain.
Ooh, okay. I'll go with you there, Whitney.
There's
that sounds fun.
Being in Texas, we hear Spanish all the time.
It's
pretty common. And so we pick, my Spanish isn't too bad, but in Spain, they speak a different type of Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
And actually the Spanish that I learned in school was different than what they speak here. But still, it's another beautiful romance language. So, yeah. It's been a lot of fun. This has been great. And if you guys have somebody that you want to hear about, or maybe that has a background that maybe we know, we can go search and see if they would be willing to answer some questions and let their insight help you. I was saying before we did this, we want to encourage and educate. So hopefully this has encouraged you to take that next step, or to sit back and think, what do I really want? What do I want to make a goal with? Or, hey, if she can do it, or she did it with these steps, maybe I can do it too. Again, let us know in the comments, and maybe if there's an area of the medical field that you want us to interview somebody, we've got connections, right? We're on a big group, and go look up the AAP, not the Jobs for American Medical
Coders. Yeah, and you can always reach me on there. Yeah, the J family, JFAMC.
And they are they're pretty prolific with letting you know opportunities are out there. There's a lot of mentoring going on in there. So take advantage of that if your Facebook is an area that resonates for you to connect with people. And as always, CCO, you can come to the CCO Club at cco.us/club. We have also a lot of conversations going in there, not only with students, but subject matter experts, people that are just doing everyday coding. They'll come and say, hey, I've run into this scenario. Half the office thinks that it should be coded this way. The other half thinks this way. Neither one of us can find a resource to kind of justify, do you have an opinion, or can you find a resource? And we jump in there and do exactly that. Or we find out what you're wanting information on. Is it auditing? We did resumes, right? We were talking about some of the other people that we interviewed. Maybe it's a thoracic cardiology credential, or interventional radiology credential. We'll help you with that. Right. So again, thank you so much for coming on here. I can't wait now to chat a little bit more because we'll be talking to each other. Never met in person, right? We've only if we ever go to a conference or something together, we might even walk
just
right by each other. Yeah. And yet we have a lot in common. So again, thanks for doing this. This takes a little bit of guts to.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so thank you, and you guys have a great rest of your night. Don't forget to comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that other good stuff. We're on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and you can go find both of us on LinkedIn. Go do that. Connect. All right.
I'm happy to connect with you. Take care, Alicia. Thank you.
Bye.